listen, when that thing says life, you gonna push me out of here. I don't know. I still don't trust things. I do it every time, but I always want to make sure it's live. It says live, and we're on. We got sound. There we go.
No.
Amen. It's Tuesday night, Testimony Tuesday, 6 o'clock. We got one for you here tonight. Listen, in this room right now, I can't tell you about the miracles sitting in here right now. I wish I could turn the screen around. You know what, I will. I didn't even tell them I was going to do it. Right, look at there. Look at there. Look, I'm telling you, I wish I could just sit here all night and let them tell you about the amazing things that God has done in their lives. Listen, that's some folks right here that everybody said never would make it, never could do it, but they sat right here doing it. And I am excited. So I ain't going to take too much time. We do have a little bit special of a thing here tonight. We have our special prayer warrior that's going to pray. You might see her. Looks like Sonic the Hedgehog jumping around back there. But it's our Addie Boo Boo. So Addie's going to pray a little bit tonight before we get started. Addie, where you at? Okay, come right here. Okay, so lean up right here so they can hear you. Let's go ahead. Now you can go ahead and pray.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just came to you today. We just want to pray for everyone, to pray for Katelyn and everyone else. In your heavenly name, amen.
Amen.
Can I stay right
Listen,
here?
that's worth it for me. Now, we're going to have to get out of the way.
No.
And we're going to let Katelyn come do her thing. We thank you. We'll see you in a little bit.
I'm super excited to be here tonight to be able to share with you all. When Randy reached out to me and asked me if I'd be willing to share on here, I told him that I had been thinking about what I was going to say for 4 years now. See, I used to watch these Facebook Lives whenever I was still active in my addiction. And week after week, I would hear these stories of how people's lives had drastically changed and how things were just going so good for them now. And I would just sit and I would wonder, what if? But in all honesty, it had been so long since I had lived a completely sober life that I didn't know if it was realistic for me. See, right out of high school, I began living this crazy, chaotic lifestyle. And I was drinking really heavily and partying a lot. And from the outside, it appeared that I was just living my best life. But on the inside, I was completely miserable. Earlier on in life, I had mastered this skill of running from problems in my life. Anything that would arise that I felt like was too difficult or painful, or if I felt vulnerable in any sense, I would run. I never dealt with anything. And one day I had this very special lady in my life tell me that God will get your attention one way or another. She said sometimes it's with a feather, and other times it's with a 2x4. And she said, I hate to tell you, but he's got to hit you with that 2x4 a couple of times to get your attention. And boy, was she right. At the age of 22, I was involved in a very traumatic car accident, one that should have taken my life. I've had more than 20 doctors tell me that they have no idea how I survived what I went through. I was literally broken from head to toe. It was so painful to just be able to look at myself in the mirror. All I wanted to do was escape reality. I hated life. I hated the things that had happened. I hated what was happening at the time. I just wanted to run. And that's exactly what I did. Now, you would have thought at this point in time that I would have taken a little bit of time to heal and to deal with things that had piled up for years that I never dealt with, and I would have been able to process them so I could have moved forward from this. But I didn't. At that point in time is when my drug addiction really started, and it was a downward spiral for close to 10 years. It was just trading one addiction for another addiction. Um, I would justify in my mind and tell myself that I was doing better because I wasn't doing this anymore. But I always had something going on. To be 100% sober, I never was. The last 4 years of my drug addiction were fueled with methamphetamine. That's when my life literally fell apart. I turned into everything that I swore that I would never be. I looked horrible. I weighed maybe 90 pounds. I couldn't keep a job. I never had communication with any of my family nor my children. I never had money. But when I did, I would stay in motels from time to time until the money would run out and then I would be asked to leave. So in 2020, that's what I had been doing. I'd been staying in a motel here in Oneida. And after 2 days of the police coming to my room, I was asked to leave the property. I had 20 minutes to get everything and to get out. I left there that day with everything that I owned in my vehicle, but I had nothing. I had no money, I had no food, I had no drugs, I had nowhere to go, I had no one to call, I had nothing. Now, I have two of the best parents that anyone could ever ask for. In my entire life, my dad has told me that I'm always welcome at his house. That no matter what happens, I can always come home. His door is always open. So that's what I decided I was going to do. And I just needed to get my foot in the door for just a little while so that I could make some moves, make some things happen, and I'd just be on my way. That's what I always did. So I get there, and it's just my dad home. And me and him, we ate lunch together, and I took a shower, and I get out of the shower, and I hear him on the phone with my mom. And I heard him say, "You're at work right now, and you can't stress yourself about this. I don't know what she's going to do, but we'll figure it out later. You can't worry anymore." So I knew that I only had a short period of time till she was going to be home and I was going to have to leave. So I needed to make something happen quick. So I'm on my phone and I'm searching through Facebook and I'm trying to come up with something, somewhere to go, someone to call, and I came up with nothing. So I sat there and I think about it for a while, like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And I decided I'm going to reach out to one of the officers who was there the day that I was asked to leave the motel. I sent him a message and I said, I'm scared. Like, I don't know where I'm going to go. My parents won't let me stay here anymore. I've been staying in my car. I don't have any money. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my kids. And as soon as I sent the message, I instantly regretted it. Because I was like, this dude does not care. He's not going to help me. I've screwed up big time this time. And he like instantly responded back. And he said, I promise you, I'll get you help. And he sent me a screenshot of Randy Burge's number. And he said, please call him, he's waiting. So I call Randy and I tell him what's going on. And one of the first things that he says to me is, what does 9 months sound like to you? And I said, Burge, I'll go today if I can. He said, well, that's not the way it works. We got to figure some things out, and I need you to call and see if they even have a spot open for you. So he gives me the number to Mr. Stan Mitchell, who was the pastor at People's Baptist Church and was over the roll-off homes in Corpus Christi, Texas. So I call him, and I'm a complete disaster by this point, and talk to him, tell him what's going on, and he's like, sis, if you have a second, he said, you know, me and my son-in-law are driving right now, but we're going to try to find a place to pull off on the road. He said, because I'd like to pray with you. So after talking to this man for a little while and hearing the sincerity in his voice, I knew this is where I needed to be. This is what I needed to happen in my life. But in true Katelyn fashion, I ran. And I kept telling myself, I was like, you know, if I don't hang out with the people that I've been hanging out with, I'm not going to do the things that I've been doing. I don't need rehab. I don't have a problem. I'm perfectly fine. So, 2 months in, I haven't been hanging out with those people anymore, but I'm still doing the same things. And I start thinking, you know, maybe there is a problem. And maybe that problem is me. So I'm going to the dollar store one day here in Oneida, and as I pull into the parking lot, I see that there's a table set up, and there's two men standing there, and I'm like, great. I gotta get in and I gotta get out. Like, I don't have time for this. Whatever they're selling, whatever they're trying to push on me, like, I don't need it right now. So I get out of my vehicle and I go walking towards the door, and I see this man approaching me. And I could tell he was really nervous. He had his head down and he said, ma'am, if you have just a minute, he said, I'd like to share with you what the Lord's done in my life. He said, I know this may mean nothing to you. He said, but I've been clean for methamphetamine for 4 months now. And I instantly just start bawling. He's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I said, no. I said, my world is literally falling apart. So he asked me if he could pray with me. And right there in that dollar store parking lot, this man hit his knees and said one of the most humble prayers that I have ever heard in my life. So, next day, back to the dollar store. I see the table still set up, two guys still there. So I'm trying to dodge them. I'm trying to get in and get out before I'm seen. So I'm walking through the parking lot back to my car, and I hear somebody yell my name from across the parking lot, Katelyn! And this dude comes running over to me. He's like, I'm so excited that I get to see you. He said, I've really had you on my heart since we spoke yesterday. So this is our last day in Scott County. I was like, okay. So I get in my car, and he leans down in my window, and he said, Katelyn, I want to give you something. Takes this necklace off from around his neck, and he puts it around mine. And he said, Katelyn, my grandfather gave me this the day that I got out of prison, and I want you to have it. I said, why? He said, because the Lord spoke to me last night, and he told me that he has big things in store for you, if only you'll let him. And he starts crying, and he said, Katelyn, please let him. So I leave there that day, and I know what needs to happen. It's like God has laid this perfect, well-lit path in front of me, and I know what steps I need to take, but I'm running in the opposite direction as fast as I can. So that night, I got high, trying to run from it, and it was horrible. I reached out to Randy, and I said, Randy, I don't know how many more nights that I can question reality. What I meant by that was I could not distinguish what was real and what wasn't. And I was tired of trying. So I finally decide I'm going to Texas, I'm going to rehab, I'm going to be there for 9 months. So I fly to Texas, and it's like 112 degrees or something crazy when I land there. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. The pastor's wife, Miss Lee, and one of the ladies who still works for the ministry, Miss Chrissy Wood, they picked me up from the airport. And they take me to the ladies' home, and they're showing me my room, and they're super nice to me, and they're loving on me. And I sit down on this little twin-size bed. And I said, is this my bed? And Miss Lee said, I know, honey. When we get a bigger bed, we'll let you have it. But for right now, this is all we've got. And I said, no. I said, I'm just so thankful to have this bed. I said, it's been a long time since I've had a bed to sleep in. I've slept on air mattresses and floors. Every now and then I would get to sleep in a bed in a motel. I had money. I said, but other than that, I've been sleeping in my car, and I've taken a couple of naps on a toilet. I said, it's just these little things that I'm just so thankful for right now. So I've been in Texas for a little while. Everything was going great. And we're in devotions one day. And the man who was speaking to us, he's reading some verses that he said that the Lord put on his heart. And he's reading in Matthew chapter 6, And one of the verses just really stuck out to me. And it was verse 24. And it says, "No man can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will despise the one and be devoted to the other. But you cannot serve God and mammon." Which all of y'all who do not know, mammon translates to money. So it says that you cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. So I'm like, what does this even mean? But all day long, I had this verse like stuck in my head. And so that night, I sat down in my bed, and there's this mirror that's right in front of me. And I'm looking at myself in this mirror. And I look so much better than what I did when I first got there. You know, I gained weight, and I knew that I was healthy. I had nice clothes on, my makeup, my hair fixed. And I happened to notice there's this cork board that I had on my wall back behind me. And it had all these pictures that people had sent me, and cards and letters, and so many people telling me that they were proud of me and that they loved me. And I just happened to notice, I'm like, I'm happy. Finally happy. But why? I'm thousands of miles away from anybody that I know. I don't have my kids with me. What's going to happen to me when I leave this place? Like, am I still going to be able to stay sober? Am I going to be able to take care of my kids? Like, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? And I pick up my Bible. So I read that verse again. Then I read the verse right underneath it. And it says, "That's why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food and your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store up food in barns, for your heavenly Father loves them. Aren't you far more valuable to Him than they are? Can all of your worries add a single moment to your life?" And it was like, right then, in that very moment, God spoke to me and He said, "Katelyn, you've got to pick a lane. You can't keep riding this fence anymore. What are you going to do?" Now, I had spent years building these walls up. I always had to figure everything out on my own. I always tried to be gangster and act like things didn't bother me. But I was scared. I didn't know if I could make it. I knew that I wanted to stay sober, and I knew that I wanted things to go better in my life, but I knew I couldn't do it alone. So I told God, I said, "I'm all in. This is what I'm doing. I know I need your help. Help me. I've let people use me my entire life. God, I'm ready for you to use me now." So, me and two of the other ladies that were in the home with me, we did a 90-day prayer challenge. And we chose 5 things to pray over. And we were really specific when we prayed for these 5 things. And one of the things that I prayed for was a job. I was a hairstylist here in the county for a long time, and when I came home, I knew that that's not really what I wanted to do anymore. I just wanted a clean slate. I was a new person. I just wanted a new life. But what was I going to do? And so I'm on Indeed one night, and I'm just looking at jobs here in Scott County, and I come across this one. And I thought, why not? I'll apply for it. So, not taking it too serious, never thought that I would hear from them. But this lady calls me one day. She's like, "Hey, I saw that you applied for this job, but we've already filled that position. But I've got a job opening. I wanted to run it by you and see what you thought." Once she starts telling me the job description, I told her, I said, "I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that physically I would be able to do that job anymore. I've got metal in both of my feet, and I just don't think that I can do it." She's like, "No need to worry." She said, I'll keep you in mind if something else comes up. I'll get a hold of you. Never thought I'd hear from this lady ever again. Well, she calls me. She's like, hey, I've got another job opening. I think it would be perfect for you. Let's get you in for an interview. So I'm like, why not? So I go to this interview, and I'm sitting in this big conference room, and it's full of people, and they're asking me all kinds of questions, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be completely open and honest with you all. Like, I don't even know what you all do here, and I don't know what this job is. Like, I Googled it, but I don't really know. I've only been sober for about a year now. I'm just completely starting over in life. Like, here I am. I left there that day, and I called Randy, and I was like, I completely blew that. Like, I was entirely too honest with these people. I can guarantee you they laughed at me when I left. Well, me and Randy went to Oak Ridge to speak at Road to Recovery. And when we leave there, we're on our way back home, and he's like, Kate, you will never guess who texted me. And it was one of the men that was in my interview. And he was like, he wants to offer you the job, but he does not think that you're going to take it. Like, I think it would be a really good opportunity for you, but whatever you think. So, I end up taking the job, and the first day there, the guy who's going to be training me, and that I'm going to be working side by side with, he wasn't there. But my other co-workers are telling me about this man. And they said he's got like some really serious health problems. He's only 31 years old, but he needs a heart transplant and a liver transplant. So I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this sounds horrible. I need to start praying for this guy. So the next day, the guy's there, and I will never forget, one of the first things that he says to me is, I know that you have this personal relationship with God or whatever, but I don't, and I'm okay with that. Okay. Then he said, I hope my language doesn't offend you, but if it does, you'll get over it. So I'm like, okay, I really need to start praying for this guy. So, in a little over a month, this man's health drastically declines. He's been in the hospital at Vanderbilt University for a while, and I'm getting ready to go to work one morning, and he calls me, and he's like, real quick, I gotta share something with you. He told me that he got saved the night before, and I just started bawling. And he's like, why are you crying? I thought you'd be happy for me. Like, I am happy for you. I said, I've been praying for you since the day that I met you. So not only did God bless me with a job, but he blessed me to be able to see Dylan be saved before he passed away. And I will forever be grateful for that. The change that was made in this man's life before he passed was phenomenal. It was amazing to see. And I know that a lot of other people got to witness it as well, and I'm sure it was a blessing to them. So another thing that I prayed about was a home. I've never been able to provide myself or my children with a home. And this always kind of weighed heavy on me. So I started praying that God would provide us with a house. But not just a house. I was very specific when I prayed. There was this house, and it was absolutely perfect. It was right beside my parents. It was my grandmother's house. And my uncle put it on the market whenever I was in Texas. So I started praying, God's going to give me this house. So keep in mind, I've not had a job in a while. I have zero credit. I have no money saved up. But I'm going to get this house. Like, I knew it. So one day I go to the bank, and I'm asking a loan officer, I said, how much would you give me towards this house? So she gives me a figure. No more. She said, this is all I can give you, and it's about half the price of what he's asking for the house. So I still keep praying about it, even though that it did not look promising at all. I knew God was going to give me this house. So, me, Randy, and Tony Russell, we take a road trip to Texas for a Roll Off Rejects reunion. We're about halfway there. And I get a text message from my uncle that says that he's accepted my offer on this house and he would love for me to have it. Now I know there's some people out there who think, he felt sorry for her, it's her uncle, whatever the case may be, whatever you're thinking. When I found out that I was getting this house, I told Randy, I said, I want one of them big but God signs. Not a little one, I want a big one. I want to put it on my fence so that everybody that goes up and down 27 can see that the only reason that I have anything that I have today is because of God. Nothing I did but God. So, the Lord has blessed me phenomenally, and He's blessed me with 3 beautiful children. Tomorrow is my youngest daughter's birthday. Miss Millie Kay turns 1 year old tomorrow. And it blows my mind that everything that I've told you about tonight and everything that I've experienced with my addiction, she knows nothing about. I'm just mama to her. And I know there's going to come a day and a time whenever she starts asking questions or somebody tells her something, and I know that I'll have to answer some pretty hard questions, but me and her dad will do the same thing that we've done with my other 2, and we'll be open and honest with her. My other 2 had to go through a lot. They do know that person, unfortunately, that I used to be. And I've spent 4 years trying to show them that I'm not that person anymore and to make up for the time that I lost during my addiction with them. Before I went to Texas, my oldest daughter sent me a message one day, and it literally broke my heart. She called me out. She wanted to know why I had been in and out of her life, her whole life. And I told her, I said, I'm going to rehab. I'm going to go get help. And her response was, I'll believe it when I see it. I needed that. I also told her before I left, I said, when I come back home, I promise you, I'm going to be somebody that you're proud of. And I hope that I've done that. But more importantly, I hope that she sees the change that was made in me. And she knows that every time I'll fail if I go at anything alone. But with God, all things are possible. I was told that there was no hope for me. I was told I would always be the person that I was. And there was times that felt very deep and very dark. But I'm here to tell you that God can make something out of nothing. I'm living proof. He's still working miracles. So if you're out there struggling tonight, and you've been told that you're nothing and you're never going to change, there is hope. And there is help out there. There's people who want to see you do better. And like I said, with God, all things are possible. That's all I've really got. So I'm going to turn it back over to Randy, I guess.
How about that? Listen, Katelyn leaves out a few things. I get to see all of it. I think she was scared she was going to talk too long, but listen, we got all night. If that stuff like that don't encourage you, I believe you need to check up. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. Listen, I've watched God make a miraculous change in not just her life, but her whole family's life. And listen, these other 2 dudes sitting right in here right now, sitting here listening. She's got, I think she brings her security with her, right? Listen, they sitting out here just to encourage her, calming her down, loving on her. Don't want to be on the screen, don't want to say nothing, but listen, they are just as amazing as she is. I'm sitting in a room right now with a bunch of warriors that God's done a change in their life, and I really appreciate just sitting and hanging out with them. I hope you got some encouragement out of it. If you didn't, I suggest you go back and listen to it again. So that's all we got tonight. I love you, and we'll see you next week. Who knows who's coming on?
Way to wrap it up, bud.
Hey, I gotta hurry up.